Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
To the Kulturecast. I'm Dr. Lexus, otherwise known as Chris Stachiw, and I'm joined by my guests, Miss Candace Perez.
Hello.
And the Canadian filmmaker du jour, Mr. Matt Campagna.
Hey.
From the Great White North, the land of accepting others, not America.
Yes. the land of places where, it's okay to be different because we don't put you in jail or send you back where you came from.
Not yet. Just wait. We're going to war with you guys. It's going to be like that Canadian Bacon movie. It'll be fine.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
It's going to be huge. 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 Jesus, I don't think we've done a podcast yet where someone hasn't brought up Donald Trump, and that's so fucking sad. And I don't think we're going to get...
Welcome to the next 4 years of your life.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to get away from it on this podcast either, because today we're talking about Idiocracy from 2006. And man, that's all we're going to be talking about today, because I feel like we're going to have more than enough to talk about. I do want to preface this podcast by saying that no one's opinions voiced on this podcast are representative of cultureshock.com. They are our own personal opinions. I got to put that little DVD commentary bullshit before this podcast, because I feel like this podcast could,
send you to jail.
Yeah, right. The secret police are knocking on my door as we speak.
Yeah, the NSA is listening in. Don't worry.
I'm not worried.
Maybe get you deported somewhere, Chris.
Yeah, they probably
Where could they send you?
They're going to send me probably to one of the stands. I don't know which one because I don't own a map. It's fine. God, for fuck's sake. So let's talk about Idiocracy from 2006, directed by Mike Judge, who's directed such fantastic films as Office Space, creator of Beavis and Butthead, creator of one of HBO's better shows, Silicon Valley. He also did Extract, but we'll pretend that movie doesn't exist because Jesus Christ, that movie is fucking awful.
They can't all be home runs. They can't all be home runs.
Well, and that's the thing about Mike Judge, right? I'm assuming, Candace, you've seen Office Space.
I have.
And Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill. I'm assuming we've all seen all of those.
Yep.
When you look at Mike Judge's body of work prior to Idiocracy, they all kind of hit the same note of talking about what essentially amounts to boring people doing what would be considered boring stuff, but it's presented in a humorous way.
Right.
Right. And so Idiocracy is just elevating that.
Right. I think, though, one of the problems with Extract was that, Jason Bateman is a great straight man to have. And he's kind of goofy sometimes, but he needs wacky people around him, And just watching how he handles the wacky people is what makes him a good actor. But there wasn't anyone wacky for him to really play off of in that movie.
Well, Ben Affleck's in that movie, right? I'm not hallucinating.
He was, yeah.
Good God. Well, Like I said, Idiocracy came out in 2006. The IMDb synopsis for the film is Private Joe Bauers, the definition of average American, is selected by the Pentagon to be the guinea pig for a top-secret hibernation program. Forgotten, he awakens 5 centuries in the future. He discovers a society so incredibly dumbed down that he's easily the most intelligent person alive.
At the dawn of the 21st century, the Army began a top-secret experiment.
Meet Joe Bauers, our first subject for the human hibernation experiment. As you know, this is highly classified. However, if successful, we believe humans can be stored indefinitely.
However, the trial run was prone to human error.
See you in a year.
And Joe slept slightly longer than expected. Half a millennium, to be exact. From Mike Judge, creator of Office Space and Beavis and Butthead.
Oh my God!
If you were the smartest person in the world...
This goes in your mouth. This one goes in your butt. Hang on a second. This one goes in your mouth.
And we're stuck with the dumbest people in history.
If you have one bucket that holds 2 gallons and another bucket that holds 5 gallons, how many buckets do you have?
2?
What would you do?
Excuse me, I'm actually supposed to be getting out of prison.
You're in the wrong line.
I'm the smartest guy in the world? Says who?
The IQ test you took in prison. You got the highest score in history.
Even smarter than President Camacho.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of America! In the year 2505,
we got this guy. He's gonna fix everything. So you smart, huh?
The ordinary will be considered extraordinary.
I thought your head would be bigger.
Idiocracy.
For the smartest guy in the world, you're pretty dumb sometimes.
Matt, I'm sure you can sympathize with Mr. Joe Bauers being a Canadian talking to 2 Americans. What did you think of the film? And I'm assuming this was not the first time you'd seen it.
No, I saw it back in 2006 when it came out. And at the time, I didn't, I gotta say, and this time around, it really felt like I was watching a documentary. So many elements of this fucking movie have come to pass that it's ridiculous. Right down to like the wrestling superstar president, the amazing amount of like brutal excessive force policing, everything about this just seems like it was making fun of what America could be if things went off the rails, and Jesus, did they go off the rails.
Yeah, but again, to be fair, in defense of dumb America, it's the whole world that's stupid in the movie, right? Is that because that's like something that they never really address, right?
It seems like
we don't really see the rest of the world.
Yeah, you kind of just see Washington D.C. and it's a horrifying disaster. And you look out on the horizon line for some 2006 special effects, and there's nothing else.
The building is held together by rope.
Exactly.
Can we assume before we talk any more about this movie that the whole world is stupid, right? Because that was what I always kind of assumed.
I don't know. There's other countries right now that aren't doing as well as America are. I mean, not to say that they're stupid, but I mean, there's places in the world that aren't doing very well. So it could just be a point in time where America's fallen and we're not doing very well. The rest of the world could be fine.
Yeah, I didn't get anything from the film that gave me the impression that that anything other than isolationist foreign policy is going on.
Yeah,
like,
for real.
They don't really mention anything else about the rest of the world, which kind of made me feel like, oh, as usual, the only thing that's really important is America to Americans. And it kind of just felt like maybe that was part of the commentary. It was like, oh man, if we stay insular like this, look what happens. I felt like that might have been commentary. There are a lot of potential commentaries going on here if you want to see them. You know, it's also just a funny movie if you want to see it as a funny movie. But yeah, I could see it as isolationist foreign policy made them all very dumb. I mean, historically, the way that any civilization, whether it's ancient Greece to, 18th century America, the way new ideas come to a place is at the portland. Those ideas arrive when foreign concepts come to you. And if foreign concepts never come to you, you wind up with insular, circular thinking. And honestly, that's exactly how something like Idiocracy feels like a documentary.
What about you, Candace? Because I know you're kind of the reason I'm talking about this movie on a podcast rather than writing a review about it.
Right, because it's one of my favorite movies, I think.
I give you full credit for being like, you should probably talk about this movie as opposed to just writing about it. So,
right.
This being one of your favorite movies, coming back to it again in the post-Trump world that we're all cowering in fear in. Well, some of us are cowering in fear. What did you think of the film?
Well, like I said, it's one of my favorite movies. I guess I always kind of looked at it more of like, just like Matt said, you know, for a while it was just like a funny movie, but I always kind of took it as like, we should probably be aware of this happening. And now it is somewhat like a documentary thing is with, President Trump and, President Camacho, you know, so many similarities between them. And also in the movie, all the big businesses, you know, have like bought the government and everything. And, a lot of that is, you know, government and big businesses are tied together now more than ever. So
and they even bought water. Like businesses bought
Brawndo.
Water. And
Brawndo.
Yeah, and the idea that water would be scarce is not exactly. An unusual one. I mean, if you've seen The Big Short, the guy who that is based on, if you remember the post-credit title card, it tells you what he's investing in now, and he's investing in water. And this is the guy who predicted the crash of real estate. So, like I said, 10 years ago, I thought this movie was hilarious. Now it just made me sad. Like, I mean, there were wonderful, great, hilarious performances, and it's really fun. But ultimately, the fact that, like Candace said, the things that we were supposed to be careful of, the things that were a warning, we did not we did not act on that warning.
Right. And what's even scarier is, you know, I feel like at the beginning of, you know, President Trump's presidency, you know, we're rioting in the streets and we're protesting, and I think people are just going to get sick of it. You know, like everything he says is made such a big deal of, and, you know, I think people are just going to get sick of it, and then things he does are going to be less and less shocking, and we're just going to start to accept it.
Yeah, I mean, the trick right now is to make sure that war of attrition is not won by the people who are waiting or hoping to wait out 2 years to the midterm elections, so that congressmen will be removed from office for supporting him, so that senators will be removed from office for supporting him. If
we can only hope.
a year and a half from now, we've all sort of given up on thinking what he's doing is kooky and horrible and protest worthy, then they win.
Right.
And that, you know, the thing is, really loud, racist Republicans for 8 years stayed racist and stayed loud. And I think if they can do 8 years of racist and loud, then I really hope the left side of America's political spectrum can be accepting and loud for at least 2.
I really hope so.
Because if the 3 branches of government are not all aligned, that would be great.
Like I said, I felt like we can't even get 5 minutes into talking about this movie without all 3 of us being on the list already.
God.
Man, it's terrible to have a podcast where someone has a different opinion than other people, isn't it? You know, when I watched this movie last night, it's not exactly where y'all's is, but my issue with this movie is I understand, like, oh no, this is what America is like now. It's not in some respects, because America is not this stupid.
No, I don't think America is like this. I just think it's like, if we let ourselves get this, you know, if we just sit by and don't do anything, then as far as just like the government and big businesses, you know, big businesses owning the government, I could see that happening. I don't know about the people getting as stupid as they are, but I think that the scariest part of it is that the government having so much to do, I mean, the big businesses just having so much to do with running the government is scary. Like, did you notice that the stars on the American flag are Carl's Jr. stars?
Yep. I mean,
stuff like that. It's like,
I think the fact that 10 years ago it was a movie about, oh no, this could happen. Now it has become this is happening. It's not that it's happened, but it's that this cautionary tale, we are now way faster than that movie predicted. I'd say we're 200 years into that 500-year journey already, and it's pretty scary.
I had this conversation on a podcast I was recently on the Projection Booth podcast about the film Roger Corman's The Intruder, which is a film about how one racist asshole comes into a area and tries to undo all the desegregation. And that racist asshole is played by none other than William Shatner, of all people.
Amazing.
And he gives a very Trump-esque speech in the film that is also very reminiscent of what Hitler did in the 40s during World War II. It's shot in a similar way. If you've never seen the film, you should check it out. I like to believe in the power of humanity to overcome stupidity like this.
Oh, me too.
Like this movie, like what's going on now. Mind you, I am not a doomsayer. I know that seems to be like, oh, everything now is like he does one little thing, the world is coming apart at the seams. I understand where people are coming from, and we have to take into account that 8 years ago there were people who felt the exact same way, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It just wasn't us. It wasn't the moderates like myself, or then the people who were on the other end of the spectrum. So, it's kind of a hard situation to understand when we're in the situation versus when other people are in the situation. So this movie kind of gives you a glimpse into if one direction is so far gone. And that's what's great about the movie is ultimately, I mean, Mike Judge didn't set out to make some sort of, I don't know, he didn't set out to make some sort of hit piece against the conservatives.
Right.
And he didn't set out to make some sort of film that's like an indictment of humanity. I think he set out to make a film that's ultimately a comedy because it's a funny movie. There's a lot of really funny shit in this movie. But I think ultimately the problem with this movie that I have is people are saying, oh, it's a documentary. I mean, it's not really. There's a lot of really cautionary stuff in this movie that just happens to be right. It just kind of happens. It happens to be that the government is being bought by big business, but that's kind of always been the case. That was the case in 2006. The lobbyists have been around forever, and that's what this is verging on.
Mike Judd has said that he tries not to be political necessarily. It's more a commentary on human nature and society. It's not one side versus the other as far as he goes. That's
important because that if this movie were more in the direction of a hit piece.
Right.
And they make hit pieces every year. Everybody does. I mean, those wacky Dinesh D'Souza movies, and I say movie very lightly because it's barely a movie.
Right.
Films like that exist for that reason.
Right.
But I mean, Mike Judge's film, like you guys have been saying, so much of it is really hitting way too close to home for people to be like, oh, this movie is just funny. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
Well, and if you notice in the movie, like, political parties, it's never mentioned. You know?
Yeah, which is refreshing. It's not like, oh, look at these Republicans all running the government.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest here. A black Republican president, it's not going to happen anyways, but that's a different issue.
I love how just because Ben Carson lived in public housing at one point in time, that Donald Trump thought it appropriate to make him, Secretary of, what is it called?
Yeah,
Housing.
absolutely.
Secretary of Housing, right?
Is it Secretary of...
If you look at every other Republican that he had to choose from, they probably hadn't. So that was his best closest option.
He had the most knowledge.
Is Ben Carson in real life Dr. Lexus?
I don't think
Justin
so.
Long's
I think he's
character?
actually done brain surgery that has been successful on.
There's nothing to say Dr. Lexus hadn't.
That's true.
Successful though.
Here we go with that fag talk again. That's my favorite running joke in the entire film is that Luke Wilson's character talks like a fag because he uses big words.
Because he can speak.
There we go with that fag talk again. Like, oh my God.
And then whenever Frito does that impression of him, he's like, oh, I want to get that kind of temperature. And then that guy's like, oh, I thought there was two of you here.
Well, and it's funny because if you look at the way that Trump was debating against all of his Republican opponents, and then against Hillary. It's basically that. It's like,
just calling names.
I'm going to call you names. You're going to put together cogent, sensible arguments. I'm going to call you names again. I'm loud. I win. And it's like, oh, no, that's not how this is supposed to work at all. No, no.
It's too bad he didn't pull out the machine gun and start shooting it in the air. South Carolina represent. What's up?
And then whenever Mark Rubio calls him out, makes fun of his small hands, people are like, oh, that was such a low blow. That was so wrong of him to say. Whenever Trump's been calling him names like Little Rubio the whole time.
Yeah.
Little Marco.
Little Marco.
I will not deny a lot of stuff that happens in this movie is really, really, like, okay. Like, it's not even, like, there's a lot of times where people are like, you're reading too much into stuff. And there's a lot of stuff online. Like, I'll get online and I'll go and read some fan theories about stuff, and I'll be like, oh, for fuck's sake, come on. Like, this,
like
you're grasping at straws.
Let me hear it. Give me an example. I want to hear.
All the Pixar fan theories and stuff, like, all that stuff. Like, in this movie, it's not really grasping at straws to be like, this is pretty similar to what's going on right now. It's not grasping at straws. It's pretty overt.
If you notice, the Secretary of Education in Idiocracy is very pro-gun, and so is that Betsy
DeVos. That's true.
He's sitting on top of that van or whatever that they came in, and he just starts firing that machine gun. I'm sure it bears. Because of the bear problem.
Yeah, the grizzly bears.
The grizzly bears.
And what a great casting choice by Mike Judge to have Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
The more boring of the Wilson brothers.
Yeah, even more of an everyman than you can imagine. Yeah, he's the most everyman.
I don't even know what the last movie I saw him in was, because he has disappeared from the world. Luke Wilson has.
What's the name of that movie? Where they're on the train?
The Darjeeling Limited?
Yeah.
He is a frequent Wes Anderson collaborator.
Yes, he is.
But I haven't seen him in anything in a while.
No, I mean, I watch The Family Stone every year, so I've seen him. I saw him at Christmas, because that's pretty standard. In my house, we watch that every Christmas. So, it doesn't feel like it's as absent for me as he is for you.
But I mean, he hasn't done anything. And obviously, when Idiocracy came out in 2006,
the Wilsons were hot tickets.
Yeah, and the film was a bomb. It was a total bomb. It was a $2 to $4 million film, and it made $495,000 box office.
Oh, but it has had a long tail, and it's gone profitable since. I mean, Rocky Horror Picture Show was a bomb. It's the highest grossing movie of all time. It's made more money than Avatar, because a long tail on a piece of film is more important than how much money it makes out of the gate.
Yep, and that's why Suicide Squad will be a successful film in the long run, Matt. It's got that long tail.
Yeah, super long tail. Everyone's dying to see Jared Leto again.
Every single Mike Judge film, for the most part, is like this, though, except for Extract. So I guess Idiocracy and Office Space are like this. Both of them have become cult classics, but they were overlooked when they came out.
Right.
Yeah, I think the work that Judge does has a tendency to be deeper and more of an interesting examination of the human condition than anyone gives a wacky comedy credit for. And I think because Judge does that, it takes a while for people who are going to appreciate it to come around to it. Like, here we are talking about this movie 11 years later, and it's a testament to the fact that he was talking about universal themes and doing it, I'm not going to say in a noble way, but certainly in a topical way even today. And so, I find the same thing about Office Space. It's not like the futility of the proletariat has changed. It's the same examination of that deep malaise that most people doing 9-to-5 cubicle farm work experience. And that sure as hell is not going away.
I feel like with Mike Judge, and I don't know how you feel about this, Candace, all three of us having seen all of his films, it's the topics that he's covering are easier for him to cover because he's covering them as a comedy. Because there's always disarm him with humor idea that it's kind of, I think, widely accepted when it comes to art form. How do you feel about him using comedy to address topics like he had addressed in Idiocracy?
Well, I think you're definitely right about that. I think whenever you use comedy, it seems like less threatening.
I think it is inherently less threatening, and it's easier for people to laugh at themselves about ridiculous stuff than if someone's like outright attacking them.
Well, yeah,
Right,
look at how much resistance there was to the inconvenient truth. And I mean, that's the most frigging earnest documentary you can imagine about how we're a horrible species of humans. And then you look at something like Idiocracy that's saying similar things, but, you know, in different corners of who we are, but does it and makes us laugh. And then, you know, it doesn't create a massive stir in the Republican camp about how, oh no, we're politically against this for one reason, or it's a hatchet job about us. You know, the really serious documentaries tend to be, and I prefer the word video essay for Michael Moore work, but they tend to be more of a biased and politicized point of view. Michael Moore is trying to get Democrats elected and trying to make Democrats honest and trying to see if he can make a Republican honest. And if he can't, make sure they stay out of office. The guy's got a straight up point of view. Whereas you look at South Park and they make fun of both sides of the aisle, and it doesn't matter what you do. If you're something that can be made fun of, they'll just destroy you. And so because they are bipartisan insulting, I think people wind up saying, oh, it's just funny. But when they do observe things and they do make a comment, it's big, man. Have you ever seen how kind they are to religions? Like, they destroy every religion pretty much equally. And, you know, whether it's, I mean, calling Scientology a religion is a bit funny. It's a tax dodge. But aren't all religions at the end of the day. And so, you know, watching what they do to Scientology in South Park and then watching what they do to really Islam in general in all of Team America World Police, it's just like, if you make fun of everybody, nobody can say you're picking on them.
Right. Well, also, there's kind of like, I think, a vagueness to Idiocracy. Even though he's making fun of us, like, as a society, he's not really making fun of anyone. He's not picking on anyone in particular, which might be like the opposite of South Park. Like you said, South Park picks on everyone equally. Well, Mike Judge, he really isn't picking on anyone specifically. It's just like a greater idea.
Absolutely. You have to read into it any kind of partisan lines. Like, if you look at a nation full of stupid people, you would say, okay, I guess all the libertarians or the Betsy DeVoses are the people in charge of education. And I guess Bernie Sanders never got that free education out to people, you know? Like, you could make that argument for it, but 10 years ago, it's not like anyone was campaigning hard for free education. So it's not something he was saying at the time. You're absolutely right. It's all something we would it's a meaning we would lay onto it after the fact now.
Right.
I'll tell you what, though. President Camacho is a better president than Trump.
Would you have voted for President Camacho?
I'd vote for President Camacho right now.
Donald Trump. You know,
I mean, if he talked the way he did, like he does in the film, I'd vote for him.
Oh my God, if it was Camacho versus Hillary, I'd have voted for Camacho. Yeah.
That's not hard, though.
You know, there's actually like some little skits that they did with him, Terry Crews, where he's President Camacho. They're on Funny or Die. And I think they were, I haven't watched them. I looked them up, but I haven't watched them. But there's a few of them. And I think they're like anti-Trump ads of sorts. Yeah. And they wanted to actually run them on Fox, but they nixed that. And I think they decided to do like a Funny or Die thing instead.
Oh man, that's so funny.
I wonder why they nixed them on Fox.
I'm sure it's a big conspiracy. I mean, Rupert Murdoch, you know, owns Fox, and I'm sure he has a big say in that kind of thing.
Looking at Mike Judge's body of work, Matt, you know, you were talking about how it's kind of talking about these pretty simple, common human ideas about the human plight. I feel like Silicon Valley is really important in kind of the conversation of Idiocracy and Office Space when it talks about the human condition, because Silicon Valley I think hits on a lot of topics about now more than obviously Idiocracy is talking about like the future, but if you talk about like Silicon Valley and talking about how technology has become so rampant and it's kind of pushing people to do really shitty things to one another.
Yeah.
it's kind of like just a natural extension of Idiocracy, where it's people are so stupid that they don't realize. No one in Idiocracy realizes that they're stupid on top of everything else. Like, I think that that's probably one of the funniest things about Idiocracy is that no one realizes they're stupid.
Yeah, and I think one of the funniest things about Silicon Valley is that none of them realize they're assholes.
Right.
Like, they're all assholes to each other. They're all just generally garbage. But it's hilarious because I'm pretty sure that the things that happen in Silicon Valley are what happened, 490 years before Wilson wakes up in Idiocracy. Like, that's totally in universe. It's working out perfectly.
Well, what cracks me up is, in Idiocracy, you have Luke Wilson's character who all the stupid people are like, talks like a fag. He's super smart because he knows how many 2 + 3 is buckets.
How many
that
buckets
is.
He can put a square peg in. Yeah, he can put a square peg in a square hole. He's a genius.
And then in Silicon Valley, you have a character like Russ Hanneman, who all the smart people who are assholes to one another think is an asshole. So it's Mike Judge is always kind of subverting your expectations with the way things are, because in maybe a less talented hand, the idea of Idiocracy would be really not as well done, and it pushes it a lot in Idiocracy. I mean, Idiocracy in parts is extremely offensive. Saying talks like a fag over and over again, there are people that would be like, this is not funny, but you have to understand that he's doing it because he's taking the piss out of people who say that now.
Yeah, if you're going to use a word like faggy or a word like retarded, and you expect to have intelligent people, progressive people, accepting people laugh at it, the way you deal with that has to be making fun of people who use the word retarded or think faggy is an okay word to say. Like, the only way you can hang a lantern, you got to hang a lantern on that word if you're going to use it. It's like in Tropic Thunder, the idea of saying full retard. The only way you can get away with that is if the things that are happening around it are other kinds of ridiculously offensive, so that you're saying, oh, that thing you did was so offensive, this thing is less offensive than that. Like, I think you're absolutely right, Chris, that it's a very fine line, a very important line to walk. And Judge does it beautifully in this. Every time I heard the word retard and every time I heard the word faggy, I thought, yep, that's the way you make it. That's the way you make it seem like people who use those words are so stupid. and then the people who are being the victims of those words, like the homosexual population and the intellectually deficient population, can look at these things and not feel like they're the victim of the use of that word. And that makes it not offensive, for me, at least.
Well, and it also helps in the film that the people that are saying retard in that world
are horrible.
Are retarded.
Well, no.
The narrator of the film says at one point, Justice was blind and also retarded.
That was the one that didn't work so well for me, but the idea of something being retarded, as in slowed down, makes actually a certain amount of sense with what's happened in the world of Idiocracy. Of course, the word itself has been stigmatized and doesn't mean what it used to mean, but the actual meaning of it, like to call something Titanic no longer means that it's big. It means it's going to hit an iceberg and sink. But the word Titanic means big. The word retarded means to be slowed. And so the fact that it's become a derogatory term means you kind of can't use it the way the word was intended. But in that moment when it's used by the narrator, that was the one time that I was like, and now Judge has crossed the line.
But I didn't take it as offensive because the people in the world are so stupid, right? Like that's like the whole point of the movie, is that the people in the film, when they're calling other people retarded, they don't realize that they themselves are verging on that. They're so stupid that they don't even realize it.
They're all intellectually deficient. They're hugely, but the interesting thing is that they're not that way because of any kind of genetic disorder. They're that way because education has become so broken. And, as America stands on the precipice of a religious woman who wants to destroy public education, handed the power to destroy public education, it gives us the chance to have people say, oh no, I'm going to homeschool my child. Well, what do you not know that you're now going to feed your child, and that child is now going to not know? And like, that's how you get a society like Idiocracy. You remove the idea of education being valuable, and you put someone in power who can destroy it and wants to.
I also feel like they make a big point in the film to point out that another reason society gets where it is, because that's what the whole like first 10 minutes of the film are about, is that smart people aren't having children.
Yes. Oh.
Well, I mean, as someone who I consider myself relatively smart, I actually that's the one part of the film that rings quite true.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's not like a scary thought either. That's the one part of the film that I'm like, oh yeah. Yep. Nope. That's a thing. That's real.
And that's a pattern that you can track. That's an algorithm that you can run for 500 years and consider how many stupid people have bred and out of control, and how many intelligent people, how many Trevors died before they could get Carol pregnant. It's a really good cautionary tale. Well, that part in particular, I think, is very much an anti-religious / anti-Republican, not thinly veiled at all problem, because the idea that the contraceptive is not happening, well, that certainly happens if you're not, if you're incredibly religious, or if you're incredibly Republican because they've been co-opted by religion. The idea of taking away freedom of choice, taking away contraceptives, like, this is how you keep an electorate stupid. And if you want someone who'll vote for an idiot, you should probably make as many idiots vote as possible. And get as many people as possible not want to vote. When voter turnout is low, there tends to be Republican wins. When voter turnout is high, there tends to be Democrat wins. And that's just a trend. And I think clearly what's happened in this population is voter turnout is really low, and people decided, hey, you know what we can do to get more people to vote? We can make it into a wrestling match, basically. And, that's what happened in 2016. You had a guy who was on WWE up for president, and he actually put somebody else who was in the WWE in his cabinet. Like,
he put somebody who owns the WWE.
Exactly. And of course, because she's been on the show. Like, it's not someone who was behind the scenes and spent all her time, like, looking after the books. This is another person who shows up and, this guy shaves his head. That guy, gets a people's elbow. It's a hilarious, ridiculous farce that does not have a place in the halls of power. And now it does. Yeah, there's a McMahon in charge of small business. That's a problem.
Well, it's more funny than anything else because they're not small business at all. But hey, that's a different discussion.
What do you mean? I feel like WWF probably started with a small $10 million loan from somebody's father. Something small.
I mean, it was actually way smaller than that. But the issue that I have with her as part of the small business is the fact that they treat their employees terribly.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's the last person I want as someone in charge of small business. But again, that's a completely different conversation.
Once again.
Something that you mentioned before we started talking on the podcast, Matt, was that there are a lot of people in this movie that are just like one-off cameo actors that are some of the funniest parts of the film.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we were talking about how great Justin Long was. He just shows up for a scene and is one of the more memorable things.
I would say for me, he's probably the most memorable scene in the film.
Yeah.
It's the most quoted scene among my circle of friends, which is saying something, but take that as you will. But then you also have Stephen Root as Judge BMW.
Oh my God. So good.
With the giant gavel.
And Wolverine hair. Like, just straight up Wolverine hair.
So strange. Or Thomas Hayden Church as the Brawndo CEO.
Yep. Amazing.
And then none other than Wilson's older brother, Andrew Wilson, as Beef Supreme.
That's his older brother? Right. I had no idea. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So many Wilsons.
But I mean, the funniest kind of scenes in the film are when he's just talking when Luke Wilson is talking with like the presidential cabinet, and you're realizing that these people, like at one point it says they're so stupid he told them he could talk to plants.
Well, you know, something about that is like at the end when they're talking, well, not the end, but when they're talking to the Brawndo CEO and he's talking about everybody getting laid off and everything, and Joe says, oh no, it's because everyone switched to water or whatever. If he had just kept his mouth shut, they would have never known it was his fault, and they could have just gone on. Nobody would have even realized it.
Or when, I mean, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like the scene where he gets out of prison by saying, hey, I'm supposed to get out of prison.
Yeah, I could be in that line.
Right. And what is it? Yeah, he's like, idiot, you need to be in that line. That's the out of prison line. And then whenever it says he doesn't come up, you know, like in the system when they scan his thing, he just runs away.
So good.
And the machine guns blow each other up.
They blow each other up.
That was brilliant.
You are a particular individual.
Right. I love how all of the police officers and the guards used big words, but it was like really awkward how they used them.
Oh, and so did the judge. Like, I'm about to commiserate this. Like, what? It's amazing. Yeah, legalese has just become difficult to say words that don't make any sense, as opposed to difficult to say words that are correct.
Right.
Perfect.
You know, one thing
Valley
I thought
girl slang and grunting.
One thing I thought was kind of interesting in the movie is that they had all of this technology, you know, like the machine that tattooed your arm, but nobody knew how to use it. They were all too stupid. Like everything was invented a long time ago, but there wasn't anyone left to fix it whenever things went wrong.
Yeah, all the technicians had died and nobody was intelligent enough to get that job. Yeah,
exactly.
The idea that they have Roombas, they just don't work anymore.
It's just going over that
floor, isn't it?
Over that 1x1 square space is clean.
Yeah. And, you know, Carl Sagan said in the 70s that we currently live in a world more closely associated to science and technology than ever, with fewer and fewer people understanding science and technology than ever. And that is horrifying. Like, you know that your phone works, you don't know how or why. You know that your furnace works, you don't know how or why. You know that your air conditioner works, you don't know how or why. And that's scary, man. Like, I in particular try to repair my broken things because I like to be sure I know how they work.
Right. Hey, you can just watch a YouTube video and learn how to do it.
I do like at the end of the film because there's a little wink at the end of the film where Joe and Rita go to the time machine because Frito keeps telling them, hey, you can go back in time. We have a time machine.
Right.
And he takes them to the time machine, and it's like this really strange, kind of state fair ride where they're talking about the dinosaurs.
And there's the dinosaur with the helmet on.
Yes,
and how Charlie Chaplin was a Nazi, or apparently they thought Hitler was Charlie Chaplin.
Charlie Chaplin was the leader of the Nazi party.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it was the mustache that confused them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Joe and Rita are like, it was a ride all along, and Frito goes, what are you, so stupid to think that we actually had a time machine? That for me is probably one of the funnier parts of the film, because then you realize, ultimately at the end of the day, not everybody in the world is stupid, but they're not irredeemably stupid.
Right. Well, you know, at the end, they do accept Joe as, the president, and it seems like they're allowing him to, make things be better. So, I mean, that within itself kind of proves that.
It does have a hopeful ending to it, which is the nice thing about a post-apocalyptic movie like Idiocracy. The idea that there is salvation, there is redemption somewhere, no matter how far gone we might think things are right now, we might be okay. And I think that is an important message, especially as, you know, Democrats prepare themselves for 2 years of yelling before their yells are going to do anything. There's light at the end of the tunnel if you're there by the time everybody else gets to the end of the tunnel.
Let's not forget, though, we can bemoan the Republicans or the Democrats losing, but it's completely self-inflicted.
Absolutely. They shot themselves in the face. But, you can't do 30 years of being the Republicans but call yourselves Democrats without having that catch up with you. The Democratic Party in 2016 was basically what the Republican Party was in 1978. Like there's not a whole lot of difference. They just were more racially accepting, and otherwise every policy they had about who you bomb and who you steal oil from and how you manage to, exert your foreign policy power. It's republicanism. It's the same thing. Did you notice any kind of foreign policy shift between Bush to Clinton to Bush to Obama? There's been no change. The same people get bombed in the same part of the world. Like, they're the same party. The only difference was that one of them was saying they were going to help people, and the other one was like, we're just not gonna. And they didn't. The number of people in America who feel like they voted for Obama twice and got nothing that was promised to them. Obviously, it's enough to swing an election. It's big, man. That the amount of failure the Democrats have put forth is huge.
And that's kind of the overall theme of Idiocracy, is that this is ultimately self-inflicted on the human race.
Yep.
Turning a blind eye to it, allowing yourselves to be stupid and not caring.
And you have to be vigilant.
Right. And they weren't.
Well, and allowing your leaders to be stupid is a problem. You can't allow your leaders need to be the best of you. As soon as you're voting for somebody because you'd like to have a beer with him or, he'd be fun to go out to dinner with. No, you don't want to vote for yourself. You want to vote for the man of gold, as Aristotle would put it. You want the person who's not brave. You want someone who's not smart. You want someone who's brave and smart. You want someone who is the best of us. And as soon as you have the best of us, that's the kind of person who can lead a country, as opposed to just rabble-rouse. And the rabble-rousing isn't enough. That's not a leader. That's just a popular loudmouth celebrity.
We are just so far from any politician being close to being the best of us.
Yeah.
I don't really see that happening anytime soon.
No, you guys had Ron Paul. You guys had Ron Paul, and you had Bernie Sanders. That were the two people who sounded like they were making some real sense in the last 10 years.
Yeah, but anytime Ron Paul talks about anything, they just want to talk about marijuana with him. And I mean, it's the same thing with his son, Rand Paul. Rand Paul can make all the good points. He can make all the good points about the budget that he wants to, but at the end of the day, it's like, so you think marijuana should be legal, and that's it. And then he's just shut down. It doesn't matter how much sense they talk.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, if you look at the number of, I almost call them provinces, the number of states that have essentially legalized marijuana, it's interesting. That conversation is moving in a different direction than it was 20 years ago. It's a matter of time until America has legalized marijuana. Canada is in the middle of doing it as well, and it's a difficult thing to do. There's like international laws that our prime minister is trying to fight his way through in order to legalize it, because for us it's a federal thing for us. So our central federal government can say yes, it is legal, and that sweeps through the nation. Whereas in America, you would need that to be, I guess, ratified by several states in order to become an amendment in the Constitution and so on and so forth.
It wouldn't have to be an amendment in the Constitution, because they did, it went all the way. It's usually court cases. Like a state decides they want to do something. The federal government says, no, you can't do that, like legalize gay marriage. And then it gets all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says, yay, gay marriage is legal now, and it's legal in all the states.
But then it can be undone, right?
I'm not sure. No.
Because prohibition
a lot of American law is based on precedent.
Yeah.
So it's pretty hard to undo once it's already been done. But I'm not exactly sure what the president or the other branch other branch could do about it once the Supreme Court says it's law.
That's the thing. I mean, it's the real trick to making something a law in the States is to put it in the Constitution. I mean, look at Prohibition. That took like 15 years to have it passed and ratified through all the states so that it was an actual constitutional amendment. And then it took another 30 years in order to get all of the public opinion and everything to swing back the other way. Whereas for something like Roe v. Wade, you just overturn it again because it's not in the Constitution. It's just something in the Supreme Court.
They're going to argue about it forever.
Yep. And it's going to be a perpetual, like, the people who don't want women to have choice are going to come to power eventually, and then they're going to try to stop it. And then the people who do think that men and women are equal will, fight to have it back. And it's like, if that's the perpetual fight, shouldn't there be like other governing happening? Or, if these people want it to be legal and it finally becomes legal because the majority of Americans think it's okay, then at what point do people just say, yeah, okay, that law's on the books. Let's move on.
Well,
let's continue.
It's just hard. It's just hard in America because each of the states is so different, and they make there's a lot of stuff that, we want to be left up to the state, but there's a lot of stuff you don't necessarily want to be left up to the states, but you want to be nationwide. So, and the states can challenge what is a nationwide law as well. So that's where, because politicians will say, well, my electorate in Alabama doesn't want this. It's not in their best interest. And when they voted for it, they said they don't want that. But in California, it's so different. That electorate might want something completely different. You just have people with different values. So that's really what makes it really hard in America.
Yeah. And really, that's one of the strengths of America. The fact that, you guys have 10 times the population we do. So it winds up being a thing where, because you have distinct states that in their own way are their own nation, they're able to govern in that way for their electorate. Whereas in Canada, the people in Vancouver on the West Coast are drastically different people than the people on the East Coast in Newfoundland and Labrador. But ultimately, I think in Canada, the way that we govern, because it's a parliamentary system, is if 40% of the people ask for the guy on the right, and 30% of the people ask for the guy on the left, and everybody else asks for the guy on the extreme left, then all those guys go to a party together for 4 years that we call government, and they sort it out. And so no one person necessarily controls all the cards. And I think in America, the fact that it's a binary system, 48% of the people asked for this lady and 47% of the people asked for that dude, and the 5% who asked for somebody else are screwed, and 48% of the people, wind up losing. And it's like the idea of a binary system where not even half the people are voting is, it causes uprising, it causes anger, it causes,
for sure, we've seen it.
Yeah, my Republican friend and I were talking this morning about, America's next civil war and how it appears to be brewing. And I
don't think we're anywhere that near that.
Well, he's a writer, and so he's talking about writing a cautionary tale about it. And I said, well, I'm a Canadian, so I'm trying to think about where I'm going to hide when this frigging happens.
Starting with you, Matt, and then Candace. Final thoughts on the film and rating out of 5 and best performance.
I would say the best performance is Justin Long. I just loved everything about that role. It was fantastic, and the fact that he shows up, gives you such a wonderful performance, and then is gone is I think makes it even better. It leaves you wanting more. Oh, my rating out of 5, I'd give it a 5 out of 5. It's fantastic. It makes me sad now. It used to make me laugh. Now it makes me sad, but it's still as affecting and it's still as important and great of a film. Those are my final thoughts. It's a film to watch for sure if you haven't yet. And even if you have, watch it again because the context makes it a different viewing experience altogether.
What about you, Candace?
I would say my favorite performance was probably Dax Shepard as Frito. He was a pretty good sidekick for Luke Wilson. And, in the end, he kind of saved the day. And I thought him more than anyone, I felt myself, cracking up at the things that his character would say. And he just did such a great job. I think I'd give it like a 4 out of 5. It is one of my favorite It's one of my favorite movies, but not my very favorite movie. So.
Any final words on the film?
Like Luke Wilson said, just read. He told Rita, just go back and tell people to read and learn. and don't let it get like this.
It's a cautionary tale. We're not there yet. I don't think we'll ever get there. I hope that cooler heads and smarter heads with brains in them will prevail. But a lot of the stuff in this film does ring a lot more true now than it did 11 years ago. Mind you, this film was made in 2006, 2 years before Obama took office. It was in the middle, smack dab in the middle of Bush's second term in office. So, what we're talking about now, the seeds were planted then. This didn't just happen overnight, regardless of what people might want to say. It's been happening, and Mike Judge saw that. And that's, like we said, humor is the easiest way to diffuse reality and to kind of make it so people aren't like scared shitless, but rather they can laugh about it, but it also forces them to think. Best performance, Justin Long. I mean, just talk about having a influence on a film and only being in it for 5 minutes. Less than that, probably. It's probably more like 3 minutes in the film. And he has such a memorable, I mean, it's one of the more memorable scenes.
Oh, yeah.
If not my favorite scene in the film, because it's just, it's kind of like the microcosm of the film in that one scene, is you get to kind of, if you played that scene for someone, they would completely understand what this movie is about and what it's looking to achieve. Mm-hmm. And rating for me is 4 out of 5. Idiocracy is not as good as Office Space, because Office Space, I feel like, talks on a more micro human experience level, and Idiocracy is more of a macro human experience level. And that's obviously what Mike Judge was setting out to do, was talk about a bigger idea than just your ass is in a desk in a cubicle farm, 5 out of the 7 days a week, but even those 2 days you're at home, you're dreading going back to the office. So I think that's why I like Office Space more than Idiocracy, and that's why I think Office Space is a tad more successful, is because it's a little bit more relatable film for most people. So, but I think the best thing that Mike Judge has done recently is Silicon Valley, and Silicon Valley is still going strong 3 seasons later. So, and Gavin Belson is one of the great TV villains / just like Steve Jobs, the character in fictional form. So. What do you think the film has on Rotten Tomatoes?
Candace, what do you think?
In the 70s somewhere, like 74?
What do you think, Matt?
I'd put it in like the low 80s, like 83 maybe.
74%.
Hey.
What?
On the dot.
For real?
Nice.
Crazy.
Yeah. Idiocracy delivers the hilarity and biting satire that could only come from Mike Judge. Yeah, I would. Yeah,
that sounds about right.
The audience score is a little bit more middle of the road at 60% with 64,000 reviews. So, I mean, when the film came out in 2006, people were from the reviews I've read, it is, trending 74%, but there was a lot of people just being like, this movie's not even funny. Like, because I don't think they got it. So, I'd be curious to see how the film would have been accepted if it had come out now versus 11 years ago.
Isn't it kind of ironic that it's a movie about a lot of stupid people, but you have to have some intelligence to get sarcasm, and that it's a satire?
Well, yeah, right. I mean, that's ultimately the point of the movie, is that some people could just look at it and be like, wow, this is a really stupid movie. Also, not understanding that it's a satire.
Fox didn't do any advertising for it at all.
No, it was very poorly supported for its P&A budget. I was surprised. I don't even know how I heard about it and saw it in the theater, but I did.
Well, they said it only was released in 7 theaters initially. That was it.
Wow.
7 major cities. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Well, I mean, it's a Mike Judge film. I mean, Office Space is the exact same way. These films, this is not a mass appeal comedy. I mean, this is not a, Melissa McCarthy female lead film. I mean, this, not to rag on Melissa McCarthy, Matt, but this is not a mainstream comedy at all.
No.
But don't you think
most people won't get this movie.
But don't you think really bad movies that the company has put more money into advertising it, that have made more money than $500,000?
Yeah, White Chicks got a hell of an ad campaign.
White Chick.
Don't they straight up address that in this movie, where they talk about the film Ass? Yeah. Isn't that that's one of the things that they lampoon, is that comedies have become so stupid that it's just a fart joke, the movie, a butt on screen just farting.
Right.
Yeah. And the fact that the distributor decided to not give this movie money is just so funny when you consider that, because they're going to give the movie Ass the movie plenty of money.
I mean, that's just Mike Judge being like, thanks for not making Office Space a success. Yep. That's what it always strikes me as. Yep. So, but, Carl's Jr. was somehow on board with this film. Or,
brilliant.
You think they were?
Brawndo was a real drink that you could buy.
It was?
Yeah, you could buy cans of Brawndo at one point.
Yeah, I remember that. They were making their rounds through, like, conventions, like Dragon Con and conventions like that. You could get Brawndo for years after the movie. It was sort of like a trophy. Like, if you had a Brawndo in your hand, people knew that you liked that movie, and that made you smart, especially if the other person also had Brawndo and recognized it. It's like, it was a badge of honor having a Brawndo.
Well, did y'all notice, like, some of the other companies that weren't kind of, like, explicitly mentioned, like Costco and Buttfuckers and Starbucks, on his TV, on Frito's TV, it said, "Oogle my Google," like it was some sort of, like, sex channel.
Oh, wow.
And then Home Depot and FedEx became, like, Fed XXX somehow. They're all, like, sex companies now.
That's one of the other, like, great running gags in the film.
Yeah.
Other than, like, the talks like a fag gag where it's just, like, Luke Wilson talking is apparently talking like a fag. The other great running gag is that, like, every company has apparently become just, like...
a porn site, right?
Or, like, hookers.
Right.
Like, Starbucks is apparently, like, where you go to get like, jerked off. They talk about, like, a latte with extra foam, like chicken wings with full release at KFC.
Right. Yeah.
That's one of the greatest gags in the film, is that for some reason everything is just sex now. They literally just say, like, we could get, like, a Starbucks. I don't think we have time to be jerked off right now. Like, some of the gags in this film, they are there from the moment he comes into the dumb world. I mean, I would love to know I'm sure there's on the cutting room floor somewhere, there's an explanation of whatever the fuck that shit is they're eating out of the tubs.
Yeah, that's what I wondered.
Just look like cheese that they're eating out of a tub. Which, I mean, again, just a further condemnation of, I guess, dumb fat people who sit in their chairs and just essentially eat.
Well, and the processing of food to the point that it's not recognized as food. Right.
Right. Extra molecules.
Yeah.
Extra big-ass tacos now with more molecules.
So good.
That's what it says. Yeah. Do you even know what electrolytes are?
No.
It's what plants crave.
Plants crave.
It's what plants crave.
Well, before I talk about next week's Kulturecast, Mr. Campagna, it's been a minute since we had you on. Do you have anything you can talk about, or are you still not able to talk about anything?
Well, my extremely talented wife, who is one of the actresses in Tactical Girls, is nominated for what is basically an Emmy in Canada. So she's up for a Best Actress Screen Award for her role in Tactical Girls. So I'm very excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a very exciting deal for us. It's currently available on Amazon Prime. It's in, I guess, the US, Germany, Japan, and the UK right now. And as Amazon Prime expands, it'll be available in more and more countries. But yeah, check out Tactical Girls. It's what really plants crave, I think.
When are the awards? When's the award ceremony?
Oh, the award ceremony is the week of March 6th. In fact, we have instead of having the Oscars and the Emmys and, like, the Golden Globes, we have something called Canadian Screen Week, where we do all of our awards all within a week. So the week of the 6th is the week that we'll be finding out. I believe our awards show is on the 9th of March, I believe. So that's when we'll find out if Melissa is nominated for a CSA award for the rest of her life, or if now she officially is a winner of a CSA award for the rest of her life. So we'll find out.
So you're saying in Canada they don't jerk themselves off for months at a time. They do it in the span of 1 week.
Yeah, we just blow it all out the door in a week.
Well, I would take that over the American system, where the industry is just going at it for, like, what feels like forever.
Yeah, well,
4 months.
They call it award season, and they're not kidding. It's like 3 or 4 months. It's ridiculous. It's a whole season of jerking themselves off.
It's a whole season of hearing about how great La La Land is.
Yeah, although, having said that, I mean, Canada wins Oscars all the time, so we also have to pay attention to that. So we.
But to be fair, I think every award in Canada should just be called the Golden Mountie. But that's just me.
Well, ours is actually called the Candy after John Candy, so it's kind of a great name. So especially
if that weren't real, I would think you were lying. That sounds so fake. That sounds fake.
Is it a little gold statue of John Candy?
It couldn't look less like John Candy, actually. It was only in the last 2 years that it's gotten the name the Candies. But it's still sort of a colloquial thing. But the statue actually looks sort of, it's like a bit like an Emmy maybe, but like an Art Deco, like stripped down, almost like a cubist version of an Emmy. It's really weird. I'll send you a link to what it looks like. It's pretty kooky.
It's not a weird little man.
No, it's actually quite large and sweeping and glorious. So, it's basically what John Candy's spirit would look like.
I see.
Next week, I will be sitting down to a conversation with my new co-host, Mr. Eric Niss. Well, you will get to know him a little bit better before we finish out Apocalypse Movie Month. You can follow me at Kulturestash on Twitter, and Kultureshock.com is where you can go to check out the Kulturecast, my written movie reviews. Yes, I am writing again after a much-needed break. You can also check out other movie reviews, video game reviews, and wrestling reviews over at Kultureshock.com. Patreon.com/culture_shocked is where you can go to kick a couple dollars our way. It's not free or cheap to keep the lights on, so every little bit helps. Brought to you by Carl's Jr. Wavoka.bandcamp.com is where you can go to check out the band that provides the intro-outro music for the Kulturecast, Wavoka. My good friend and co-host Eric Niss is also one of the guitarists for the band, so make sure to check them out. That song is Lament off of their first album, Sorrows, so make sure to give them money so that they can Snowtown your ear holes. I want to thank Candace and Matt for sitting down and talking Idiocracy with me.
Our pleasure.
You're welcome.
And make sure to check out next week's Kulturecast.